start with that survey? Who is done with the survey? Are we done here? Yes. Oh,
I don't know if it was an oversight or an effort to be cheap, because there is
Oh, no. You don't have any.
Maybe we should have just had all choice.
Yes, you need to make pound cakes. I might get you, because we got Thanksgiving coming and my mother makes the best one.
Okay.
Yes, please do. Tell him to bring me a card, and I'll bring him some cards.
So let's see. Let's see, how was your lunch? Good?
Great, how about that?
Did you get chips and salsa?
Oh, no.
I don't know that everybody knows that your cupcake is actually a chips and salsa kind of thing.
Yes. I don't crave for sweets. I crave for chips and salsa. What can we do?
And queso, it's not cheese dip, right?
Not queso, but chips and salsa.
I know, but my daughter-in-law's from Texas and she gets so mad when we say, I need to order cheese dip. She says, it's not cheese dip, it's queso.
All right, so let's check how are we doing. I'm going to read one of these items, and you're going to say check if we are done. So select a student learning issue. One issue per grade level or group. Can we do that?
Yes.
Check. Describe the story behind the issue. Did we find like different causes or yes? Check?
Check.
Check. Identify which of the 10 or 15 root causes families could help us address. Check. Select 3 causes for families to help address. Include your rationale for selecting the item. Highest impact, quickest win, etc. Check. Craft your family engagement strategy. Not check. That's what we're going to do. So in your participants guide, if I turn this on, go to pages 10 and 11. I'm sorry, 8 and 9. You have a copy which is 10 and 11. Thank you for that.
Yeah. There's 2, yeah, there's a duplicate. One's for you to write on and the other's to have.
You're right, I'm right.
This is 10, not 8 and 10 here. 10 and 9. Okay. So I'm going to give you about a minute to look at your template. Okay, both templates. You have one which is for the strategy and the other one that is a little bit different than the one that we are going to see here. Look at it and we'll talk about it. Think about the information that you're going to need to complete this and anything that you will need to develop your strategy. With your strategy in mind.
Yeah, indicative.
Okay, so select the grade level. Do we have a grade level? Yes? Okay. Now select the student's learning issue, like vocabulary for the district, right? Where did we get that information, that 1, 2, and 3, that is listed there? Where did that come from? The map.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are your 3 strategies. So who can read that question for me?
What actions could families undertake at home, that one?
Yes. What actions could family undertake at home? What strategy would work to address one or more of the selected reasons? And who can read that for me, please?
Partner with families to support students to select, read, and understand nonfiction books.
Okay. So partner with families to support students to select, read, and understand nonfiction text. So it's not that we are going to do something, we are going to partner with them, right? So make sure that in these cases, we need to build that capacity so parents can help us with that strategy.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Go ahead.
What do you notice about this right here? Especially what is that word in blue? What? Strategy. What about that? One.
Engagement.
We didn't say strategies, did we? We said strategy, meaning, right? We don't wanna, and I'm gonna use a gun reference here, we don't wanna throw buckshot at it, because then we don't know what's working. We wanna have a laser-like focus. And one of the things that I noticed when you guys were sharing your mind map, and please don't misunderstand because we go right to strategies, right? I want you, when you use this process in the future, I want you to slow down a little bit. Don't go right to strategies, okay? We want to understand root cause. And we all did it, and everyone else that I've ever done this activity with does it, because that's what we do. We're fixers, right? So slow the train down just a tick so that you don't get overwhelmed with the work that you want to do. We want to be strategic. Maricel said that yesterday a number of times and again this morning. Be intentional, be strategic, okay? So focusing in on those, back that slide up one, the 3 reasons, right? What were our top 3 things that we identified? Why they're not proficient, and how families can help us. So the next slide, the strategy is we are gonna work on supporting students to select, read, and understand nonfiction text. One strategy. Now, what she's gonna tell you next kind of helps move that along a little bit. Sorry, I just needed to say that.
Okay, so this is our next question. With this strategy in mind, what actions can family undertake at home to address the identified issue? So now we're going to think about what they can do at home without us.
Actions, plural. Yeah.
Actions.
These?
So we're going to build that capacity for our parents so they can do this at home. And remember, our, let me see, because there is something here. Who can read that question for me?
With this strategy in mind, what actions can, the one at the top?
The one on top.
Okay, what will we do throughout the year to help families take action?
Okay, so there is a word there that I think is super important for us throughout the year. Right? So we're going to choose a strategy and it is going to be from meeting number 1 to the end of the year, throughout the year. And we can make that a little more complex through the year, but use the same strategy throughout the year. And something that I want you to have in mind also is our process conditions. Okay, remember, those strategies need to be relational, learning and develop, asset-based, we're thinking that our parents can do these, we're building capabilities, culturally responsive, collaborative, and interactive. So make sure that we have all of those 6 process conditions in mind when we are selecting those strategies or actions. So can somebody read those 3 bullet points for me?
Point out when students read nonfiction text and why. Model for their child when they read nonfiction text like maps, cookbooks, how-to books, newspapers, etc. And share how they utilize nonfiction text.
Okay, so, and again, we can be very strategic here. I was telling them that one thing that you can do to teach your parents how to do this is probably create some videos in where the students are putting in place some strategies to learn to read, like the close reading strategies, right? Like you can have a child like circling, this is paragraph 1, paragraph 2, these are the words that I don't understand, this is what I'm confused about, this is the title, like making sure that a child is showing the parents what they have to do so the parents can, when they're reading, they can tell the kids, okay, you didn't number your paragraph, you didn't circle the words that you didn't know, you didn't underline your title, you know? They can learn that. They don't need to be teachers to do that, but they have something they can see. So make sure that you have that asset-based and not deficit-based. Even if they don't know how to read in English, they can do that, right? They know where the title is. They know where the paragraphs are. So, okay. So we are going to fill our template in page 8 and 9, no, 8 only, with the information that we just got. Any questions about this? And we're going to do this in our groups together and then present.
And if it can be simple, would it be something simple as just identify fiction or non-fiction or something, just when the kids come home? It would be something simple. Just identify
That's way too simple.
It's too simple.
That's way too simple, because what you want them is to, so identifying what is informational and not informational will really increase the student. So we said that, for example, increasing their reading level, that's strategy. We talked about working on the strategy.
Yeah, so you have just one. This next one.
Which I feel like that would help with vocabulary, that would
Fluency.
Would be providing
Our three readings.
Is that where about like our 3 in
That's a copy. That's your copy. Your strategy will be, for example,
right, yes.
I don't know, teaching them how to identify words that they don't know, or that could be a strategy.
Okay.
Or a way to increase their vocabulary. If I were you, for vocabulary, I will try to address this with I ready.
Yeah.
I will probably go here
Okay.
for my strategies.
Okay.
Because increasing the reading level is what is really going to help here
And will help with reading stamina.
with everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Alright, so that.
Reading
that is
comprehension,
where,
everything.
Like, when I'm looking at this, like, we've got the three things, we've got the three things in yellow listed as our three reasons why.
Exactly.
Okay, but we're gonna have one strategy. Is that one strategy for all reasons? Are we just picking one strategy we want
I would
parents
say-
to do? And it doesn't matter if it's, we just want the biggest bang for the buck.
Exactly.
And it's simple as make it simple.
Exactly.
Alright, so,
Would it be like providing reading materials on their grade level?
Teaching them start.
And then showing them, like you said, how to understand.
Like the
Well,
close
if
reading
you tell them they need a dictionary, you think they're beside them. If you don't know the name of this, what this word means, then write it down or look it up. But
so, okay. We can reading tag, we'll just do that for lack of a better, so they're reading non-fiction, reading text. And we want them to implement strategies when reading, right? Okay, so would that be, does that go through, like, the first thing you're closing your reading? So this is not my deepest, like, going through and maybe first you go through and you just circle the words you don't
Yeah,
know.
close reading is like you kind of address the text in like 3 times. The first time they read like, let's say briefly read.
Right.
And then they separate the paragraph because when they are taking when they're taking the standard test, sometimes they don't know. They said there is a word in paragraph 4 that you don't know, and they don't know which one is paragraph 4. So they first like, this is a title, this is number the paragraph, identify the words that you don't know. When you identify the words that you don't know, you can even create a list of random definitions, right? And then go through that. Then the second time, then you have more information about the words, and it's easier for them to read. And the third time it can be just for fluency. Try to read that faster.
Is that asking too much?
Have you seen the posters? Close reading features have lots of posters. You can put that in the folder for the parents, like a little, this is what they need to do, show them a video of the same kids doing the same thing. Going through the text, and then having them just reading and listening to them, and then asking at the end, like, what was the story about?
So that's our.
Make sense?
Yes, it does.
And I guess, again, just put it in
I would do last week.
That's what I'm saying, so pushing it that way.
Just expose people to the informational text. So, I guess, I'm gonna keep my actions and my strategies mesh, and I'm trying to separate in my mind. Well, the action steps would be
Okay, we'll talk about the actions after this.
okay, but I'm like right here. Because we have to list what they're gonna do at home, right?
So that's just an meaning to the information, and I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but the thing is, we're trying to do this whole thing at once, when really they're trying to break it down.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So when you're thinking about your actions, like point out when students read nonfiction text and model for the child reading nonfiction. Like it could be providing materials in the family, providing strategies for the family. Model how to use strategies and
And then you get into more specific.
yeah, the specific is like, in January, so the first meeting.
Alright, so having this right here helps. So what am I getting our strategy?
Because I was going to go back.
History of promises.
Closed reading, is that what, I mean, can we just say?
Nonfiction text or
Well,
information. That's one of the terms that we need to use.
And then we can break it down.
You like Jack? Well, can we use what we already have?
Content-based
Yeah,
information.
can we do that? Can we use that as that
Well, it's
instead of?
basically the same thing, right? I mean, okay, I was making sure, because I thought the same thing, I was like,
Support students to read,
Yeah, can we use that?
to read and understand
Context.
They're not gonna select it, we're giving it to them.
yeah. And then. Yeah, no, I was just,
We're all in agreement.
waiting before I went to the next one.
So theirs is
Oh my
their content is good. Ours is specific,
Right,
it
okay.
is already information text. So we don't have to say, for them to select this, we're specifically already there.
Arnold Paul. The few other things you can drop in those So when I do go to I try to make it, especially I say all of it. I see it. But I have a little what's going on. And I know. They have their main burger. It's like a sauteed onions on
I already like this. I know you're behind. That next part is where she said, this is where we're doing all well, that's breaking down the action. So this is sending the copies of the shares, right?
the phone.
The folders. Julie, and
What I meant was like,
Karen,
separate.
training, staff, I was trying to get this before we were in the right?
Sending folders.
Right.
To identify.
Just to start with the environment.
See, we're gonna introduce this at that function, whatever it is. And our new remix, right, our remix would be, so we're gonna model how to do this. But I mean, yeah.
statement.
But this is, she said she only did strategy. So this would be,
Yep.
this would be a strategy.
So sending her the phone numbers and getting them grade level period, right? Isn't that?
But look, is this what we do? This is what they do. Is this what we do?
This is what we're
This is what
doing.
the parents are doing.
With that strategy in mind, what actions can parents take to address the
Right. So sending them packets would not be, no, that's, what are they gonna do with
They're
it?
gonna take that
But that's
packet
what- yeah.
that first
Informational
time.
text in the
That first
packet.
time, they're going to follow the, whatever we model. So the first time, they're going to just read through it, annotate. We're gonna use that word.
So we're going to, I want them to annotate, right? That's
Because I think we need to use the words, we need to use annotate, because again, but if we model that, when we show them that this is annotating, you're taking these symbols, when you read through, we understand that we're doing it. So, yes.
And that goes into the specific things too.
Then you start putting your to-do list, who's doing what. So,
But
yes.
she didn't mention the channels, but you see where the shaded differences are, the different methods.
So, yes, what you just said, parents.
It's hard not to choke on the elephant.
I'm just waiting, my turn.
No, I mean, well, that's what we figured out, we're just overthinking it.
So, yes, we're gonna say, the information is
Everybody's got some.
That's what you go
Inspirational text. I'm only third of that, right?
Miss Muse can go, Miss Muse can go.
What else?
Simple instructions. Sometimes I've been able to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know this thing.
Because that's somewhere in that, that's in there, yes.
Getting a line of
I think for us, for us trying to and for us, if we give them another time, we get the basic idea. I wanted to learn.
Where is the, I do, you we do, you know. Vocabulary interchangeable is the same.
They were great. Because it all runs together. That's why I said as long as it's road safe, at least we know what we're trying to accomplish, and also make it pretty.
Yes.
I see you stressing over it, that's why I'm trying to make sure this is.
Almost 2 minutes.
Y'all, that was awful. Like, we all
And that
we
was
were all,
his
people were
first
supposed to
year.
be, but it was hot in there, and I couldn't find it. And said it came out one of those, and I finally looked at it, one elective one or whatever, and I was like, hey, you know, something like, y'all look at these, I didn't know it was supposed to look over here. I didn't realize it had these hot sun people working on me, and all the kids.
Do we need to?
Those classrooms are doing that.
So
I don't think so.
It's because it's the same thing, it's just retention. This is teaching them how to do close reading. Where like one day or
So that would be the face to face. So that's what you want to do, is just generalize it better, so that when we got it, like, we weren't just repeating ourselves.
you know, like that was the kind of like, you
what?
I'm trying to do it and think about it without looking at like the example. You know, just like I wanted to say about it, just like, make it make sense, but that's what I do. I'm trying to be hard.
You know what he said.
Can I have your attention for a second? This is something that I think I need to share with you because I've seen that, like, Jester talked about vocabulary, you guys talked about vocabulary. Yours was more informational text, but vocabulary is one of the problems. So reading, vocabulary. And I was talking to Chris and I asked, what is your percentage of poverty in the district? And it is?
65-ish, isn't that right? 65, 70?
64?
It depends.
depends on the
It really doesn't.
Forty.
It's 72 is the last.
72? So I would like you to hear this, because this is very important. This is some statistics from research about poverty and vocabulary. It says that over 10% of the school children and adolescents live below the poverty line and may have experienced or exhibit one of the following. It says that when kids enter first grade, they haven't been read to about 25 hours. So first grade, so we're talking kids with 7 years old who has listened somebody reading to them only for 25 hours. That is about 3 hours and a half per year. Per year. This one I love it, and this research is old. The 30 million words. Have you heard about it? It says that kids have been exposed to 30 million fewer words by age 4 than children in high socioeconomic status. 30 million words. So that's the reason why they don't have the vocabulary. And if they don't have the vocabulary, they don't have words to understand what they're reading. That slow them down when they're reading. And it could be the cause of all of the problems that we have with reading. The other ones we know perform poorly on class and standardized tests. They dislike authority. They do not monitor behavior. Do not use middle class manners, and they're most of the time physically aggressive. They're frustrated. You know, they are in a class that in 6th, 7th grade, 7, 8, 9, where they can perform, they can read while the teacher is asking them to read. So when we try to be asset-based, culturally responsive, we need to have that in mind, because poverty sometimes can be also like those differences, culturally differences. So that's the only thing that I wanted to say. Keep that in mind.
Well, I'm taking the early childhood letters right now, because I just love to learn, and that was one big thing that they were talking about. And we as teachers, a lot of time, I don't mean to be ugly, but we try to dumb down because we think they don't understand what we're talking about. Instead of using those big words, when we're having conversations, oh, you can't say you're doing great this morning, you've got to say, I'm fabulous, you know, because we do that. And then we're not introducing them in the lower grades to science and social studies. We're so focused on reading and math, we're leaving some of those things out where we could give them
How
more
many,
language.
how many pre-K classes do you guys have? 5. About 100 students or
No, we have 77.
77? That's another thing. You know, the 90% of the brain develops before 5 years old. So those are the best times for them to learn vocabulary.
And we have great pre-K teachers. They're great, they're phenomenal. They
Yes.
are, they're really good.
So
Another
this
thing,
you can think. You can think about teaching parents who don't send their kids to pre-K, having workshops and implement these strategies to teach them how to read books at home, how to increase that vocabulary at home. That is another idea. So I get emotions.
another thing that I wanted to just throw in the mix, since we're talking about vocabulary, this is a great opportunity to integrate SEL practices with academic practices. And so part of vocabulary could be learning how to name your emotions and using those words at age-appropriate levels.
We said that when we were talking about our family night, because we see it as such an issue in the elementary, that the 2 books that we picked for the books that we wanted to provide them, the fiction and the nonfiction, we wanted to be targeted to something SEL.
perfect.
So the family even recognizes it, and these kids aren't going home to anybody to talk to a lot of the times. A lot of the kids that I see in my office, they say, my mom doesn't watch me do a cartwheel. You know, like my mom doesn't talk to me, my mom's on her phone. And so that's the generation of kids we have to deal with too, is like parents that won't get off of these long enough to interact with their children. And that's missing vocabulary when you don't talk to your child.
And I know our pediatrics are doing a fantastic job in town of making that known. I mean,
Shantae's great.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're helping our families know, or at least I know.
And just a little bit of what you're saying, the intentionality of that, because sometimes I might be on my phone for 5 minutes, and for my kid, my 5-year-old, man, that's 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
So the intentionality of, hey, Daddy, watch this. Okay, yeah, buddy. How can you train your parents? How can we train each other in that intentionality process too?
Partnerships between pediatrics, districts, and implementing these by 0 years old.
Thank you for sharing or reminding us of that research too. Before we move on,
So I made a mistake when I booked my flight.
So you going down Roebuck?
not that kind of mistake. Thank you, Scholastic.
I thought, well, if we leave by 3, I'll be there by 5. My flight leaves at 6:40. I didn't count that we have an hour.
We're in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So Mama gotta go.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to leave a little, like, at any moment. But I wanted to say that I really, really enjoy working with you. It was amazing, the conversations that we had, and I'm really inspired by everything. I can wait. Let me know. I put my card. Let me know how is it going. Let us know if you have questions, if there's anything that we can help you with. I got an email, a couple of emails already. I'll answer that when I get home. But anything that I can help with, anything we can help with, let us know. We do this because we love it, because we believe in family engagement. And we can wait to see the changes that you're gonna make in your families and in this beautiful city that we enjoyed for the last year. It was amazing.
Thank you. So, we just processed, like, pulling all of our ideas together, right, and making like a strategy statement, how we want to focus. If you look at the next page, which is 9, this is where we really start to drill down into the action steps that we want, right? And the way that this page is organized, you see that there are some gray shaded areas along the line that are the rows. That last column is a channel, right? A channel is that method of how we're going to do it. Whether that's face-to-face, whether we're going to have a printed document, whether we're going to have some kind of technology resource, social media, a number of different things. So the win is, and you have a sample of this on page 17. There's a sample of this. Because they're grouped by channel, it's not going to be chronological in the win, probably, right? So think about that as you're coming up with these action steps and the method by which you want to provide those resources. So let's spend the next few minutes taking that strategy and then having some conversations about action steps. We already said there are 3 things that we can do, right? Families can do at home. And our action steps will be driven by those 3 steps, okay? Ready,
think you have to have all that. She's gonna do all of it. So you want me to tell you?
I mean, like, this is not, this is stupid.
Yeah, I didn't think y'all would like really familiar.
Well, I thought that was the same.
No, I mean, like, we're starting in January, so like, if we really.
Gotcha.
Not.
Because I was.
Like, he's like, hold up.
All of this, I'm like, I'm that type of person. Y'all, a lot of.
Stressing over it, you don't have to do all that, and like, you know, I feel like it's for nothing. Because that way ours is set up, like, that's what happened. It's like, but, why wouldn't you?
I don't think she would. I don't think she would. I just.
He's giving you that possibility. Be prepared.
This, I'm gonna go to get to this.
Johnny for the ELT. What is it? It's, one of our teachers went and bought it already. She can speak it to them and then can translate it into the voice ear. No, you said like
The parent has an ear thing.
Yeah, it's gotta be set on.
Well, I'm telling you right now.
I guess that changes. But it's a headphone set for English, Spanish, their hearing is the translation.
You say.
one of our teachers bought it for herself and used it the other day.
Dr. Price would know the individual prices, she just ordered some.
It's the translation electronic. Translation electronic.
Supporting video.
They use, like my wife was saying, in some of our big international things, and it's different languages, so it's like. Nice
One night a week.
This is what and now we're going all we want is let it go. We'll let you implement it. But you've got to accomplish, and this is you call keep that.
Mrs. Maxwell on
119.
Yeah, I think what they say. What I say is, I'm thinking, when I'm thinking, it's a situation just one of the
And I think it's a good, I think it's a Okay, next one. We need to put.
Because we got baby that. But I didn't say I agree.
Well, I think in general, I think like some of the years I've looked at results, in general, these are our things.
Miss Graham, yeah, and I feel like.
These are our things.
And she'll know exactly what you said.
Well, I'm with you.
But it does make parents feel like y'all are trying to do something different. You realize that it wasn't invested
And most people know what remix means.
No, what I'm saying is, my very particular, this is what the advantage of they
Now, look, I know this was our.
get the parents involved. And one of the things we survive a bunch of
No, I was just making, I wrote all kinds of stuff all around that, so, I'm just.
Right.
But I want you to be able to walk.
I think sometimes
Yeah,
yeah, but I am, my goal, I'm working with, I know you fix this out of it. I'm working for everybody to see me, but I'm working those current students, try to be.
At least this is what I do. Maybe not everybody knows, but I have to turn the page.
we got January vacations, maybe when we really want to.
Silent.
That one right there.
I know, I
See that last
like
column?
check.
It's because,
Don't
that's
stress
why,
yourself over feeling.
and I think you got to figure it out. That's part of what I'm doing.
There's a lot of
I'm
work to do,
working
you
with
can
other
get,
groups.
you can get in that zone.
But that's
In
why,
fact, I kind of feel like
I had a
that's,
feel.
y'all are struggling a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we're there.
But don't let go. As long as you're understanding
They
the
started
process.
off with entities. That's what I'm trying to draw the lines, sort of way up.
That's why he's keeping that mask on.
Where I could say, okay, now, when you heard what you're saying, how secretive was that first time I was talking to church? Now I'm okay with some of that. Now, because now what's happening is that the city, I'm talking to Congress, is talking to hey, church people.
After the break.
This would be physical
I just believe when you read what I do, people get scared. It's just been,
Okay, I had a thought.
here's the
Okay,
thing.
I'm
I'm in the city,
my money.
and we need some men.
I had one of those because I had a person that could use his, and I had two of them. So I stole one of them was the page. So I have them. So when I get my testing done, I took
But I think that's part of the thing.
he said you can get these probably for about $200 or less from so I'm looking at this as part of technology too. So no matter where we're at, we don't really
Whereas I am very
you're gonna go outside.
hidden a lot.
So we're looking at
She's kind of
technology and honestly, everybody's supposed to
But
have.
I think that's the so say all that with, I think that
Okay, so that's the,
Everybody knows.
it's not about, it's either we're laying our groundwork. I think it's learn things.
you got social media.
We're just starting at 5. And then we're gonna turn that into meet and greet only. It's a little passionate. 5 meetings, 5 faces. Quiet, sorry. Right. I know. The sound is you don't have to put it down.
It's going through Google.
I'm gonna tell you.
But that would be technology. I would do parent survey.
People need to see themselves.
That's the thing, 5 degrees is so well. But when you take out one degree, that's the worst you got.
She likes that.
So that would be.
Well, I mean, or maybe we could put it here.
Okay.
So maybe we should do a post about it here to make people aware.
I don't forget about that one for Facebook Live video. Teacher of the year. Now I love it. So it's just a little time.
Kind of like, let that shell bite.
Sitting on your
I
carpet.
love that.
Sitting on your carpet with your little cat.
I'm gonna work it. Yeah, eventually. No, the big one will be.
Maybe they see another parent
Yeah.
You and I will probably meet. Yeah, I will say, I bet it's going to be finished and I'll put ladies when I go.
And it would be different for each thing that you do. Eventually.
But for this,
But this, he was like, I would love
You're like so.
You know what I'm talking about, right? She's not ready yet, but my work is going to take.
I was looking at, of course, there'd be the tickets for that. Whatever that is, and that's gonna be, that could be. But September. So we have to wait until we've got that first piece. So it was the first week of September this year, and I thought it was so I bet you it's the first week of September. So we're looking at maybe the end of September, 1st of October for our first one. That gives teachers 5-6 good weeks.
Coming up soon.
You may not stay like this.
And he got a child said he's going to be special needs. No problem. She ain't so when she said
She just took my reading series and wanted her score.
There you go.
September would be our first meeting, like this would be, and then January would be the second one, or whenever we get the second round.
Because I was doing it
And then April and May would be either right before ACAP. And I was looking at the dates this year.
That goes back to
I'll take about 3 more minutes with that.
It's late.
Sir?
Yes, I don't know. Yes. What do you think?
Yeah.
Here they have it. If they come back, I mean, what is
If you walk in August, present it we will have solved 50% of our problems. We will have bought enough of them and everything. To keep working on everything else. It's like, hey, everything else. This is where we're trying to
Alright, and so what can we do the message way, strategy, and start
we will share. We can't promise it'll help, but we will share.
Yeah. I thought we were trying to she has to be very specific. She doesn't work with top of her. My job also underneath it first. You get to look at me dealing with the verse and then go get
Okay, so we're gonna sit for 5 readings and then
Right, that's what I'm saying.
and then have a
But that's
separate.
the dynamics. So when I think of things, I'm like, how do I just work
Like
together?
you go through, but you still need to sit and interact.
How do we reverse the pressure and use the good parents to our
The next one is more of personal experience.
Or they're trying to figure out the time for me to cover this stuff.
I don't know. What do you just
I'm afraid
if your end goal
is,
if we
I'm afraid you gotta choose
we were
something that, right,
an hour.
Not after teacher
An hour.
time. Not after teacher time.
an hour. Right, that's my goal, that's what I want to know. What is something?
And then what you go.
In my mind, this is like, you know, we're on everything, like, this is your, everybody, everybody's a mess, what do you trust? This is how you take like.
I can, I mean, I just
It's a building a relationship.
I just want to make sure that I'm care and think
Like to me, it's coming hard.
Can I leave it up to Brian?
Okay, now that.
And I'll tell them, I want to make sure I take great notes.
Okay, guys,
Now let's do the hard work.
what, I know you're not finished,
That's why I was trying to figure out.
and I was telling a couple tables, I don't want you guys to get stressed out by this. As I put 1 foot on the dock and have you put 1 foot on the boat. But, what I want you to understand before you leave here today is the process, right? This process can be used for all of your learning goals to link your families into the loop with what's happening with our standards in the classroom, okay? So if you have an understanding of this process, then I'm good when you leave here today. And there'll be time, we're about to share, and then we'll take a break. But we're also gonna look at our team makeup before we go and make sure that we've got the right people at the table, those kinds of things. So, and I know you may not be finished, but what I would like for you to do is, Jim Pearson and the district, y'all are gonna partner together. Let's see. Y'all, let's just do that. Y'all partner, and y'all partner. So if y'all just kind of maybe scoop together, I'd like each school to take 5 minutes and kind of go through the parts of the plan.
So maybe we need to do that.
You may not get finished, but go through the parts of the plan that we've done so far and share them, okay? So y'all just circle up, cut up.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Freeman. I apologize.
Just let me know if you're able to hear.
You can circle back.
All right.
Well, I don't know.
We've been behind for 2 days and finally got up. All right. Y'all pick who's gonna go first, and I'm gonna start my timer. You have 5 minutes to share your parts of the plan that are done. And you guys offer feedback to one another. We have 10 minutes total, so 5 minutes, go.
Alright, so ours, we have January, multiplier, success, 9th of May.
How did y'all do yours?
That'll
Did
give
y'all
us a
start
chance
like
to go back.
the beginning of next year?
We put out good work before we even look at doing reading. We have another one for our
Who
technology.
started
We got
January?
shown
We were like
Like
about
boots to the ground.
for those parents that are needing extra help.
Hey guys, why don't you start with your strategy first? That statement strategy that you created, and the 3 things you want your parents to be able to do. Just real quickly so the other team knows.
I'm gonna need more than 5 minutes.
Run it, girl.
So our, this one,
All we take out would be.
I guess, when she's asked about the multiplication factor, how we
Y'all
use
said
it.
it was
We're gonna teach you all instructional strategies.
everything that's the school. Non-fiction, informational
And
plan.
then we'll have daily practice, 15 and 20 minutes a day.
So our
Which is
strategy
strategy
was
was
for
actually
families to support students to
We're
read
asking
and
for daily
comprehend
practice, 15
content-based
to 20 minutes
information.
a day. And then
And
you
so,
celebrate their
like,
achievements,
kind
not
of
just do that, but also celebrate as they master.
We said, we want our parents to use reading strategies to
And
help
then
their students
after our
comprehend
January
informational
math, we
content.
have enough time to
They want them to
read,
help
and
students
tweak
learn
whatever that we
meaningful
need before we get into February, which we do. Give us enough
And
time to go
so
back into
we
it.
started
Just
looking at like
how
how to do
we were taught is that
this now.
this is gonna be a process until, it's not gonna be
Honest
perfected right away. We have
we're
to
going to
work hard on
have
this.
things like take rooms at our
Criticism,
school.
you know,
We've
however.
got an idea of what we would
We've got
like it
printed
to be.
documents as tip
And we
sheets,
talked about the importance of
tangible
having it, so
resources,
what we would like to do is
social media,
is
both
in
communication and math,
having our parents in there to like.
technology games. I mean, we're offering Zoom
This is not,
by every week
not
for those
all
parents.
children.
who
It's
have extra help.
small.
Working
It's
together to
like,
take
it's gonna
stress.
take lots of
That's
effort.
our part.
So we're using your Zoom call over to get it
She set
ready.
that up.
So that way, when we're have our class and that's our
Like,
local
I can
meeting,
plan that.
we've got that there,
implement
like,
now.
you know,
So,
like,
so
yeah,
next
so
year,
January, we
so
talked
start
about
in
kind of
January.
those reviews, but we were just.
We'll use those sheet days that we have when we come back in January where the kids are not there.
That first.
So we're gonna start on the 19th, everybody else don't have to.
And,
People won't be able to do it.
you know, like, there's
Between
the school, it's not about, we're really, before we can start saying, hey, I need you to go home and do this. We need to build a relationship there, and so we're hoping that first, that open house readings or audit readings,
Well, we build that relationship, trust.
yeah.
And like you said, we didn't want to throw stuff out at them.
Maybe that's when we do that universal communication thing that we talked about, like, hey,
And then I said,
We're hoping to
If
introduce
18
our
hours,
our
we have
communication
six.
platform with
It would be six
teacher
teacher.
so that we get everybody to do it in that way, and then having some activities to use the relationships with the teachers,
We have
build
five
relationships with the
interventions, and we split.
And, yeah, some of those may be like just takeaway, something that they can take home, so that it is still something like instructional, maybe the word list, the Lexile word list, and just tell them that they can, you know, help them, so they can work on those words, maybe reading 5 words, you know, word out code, something like that.
I'm squirreling today, I'll take 4 away.
And then that will set them then going into the next night,
When you say the other day,
like the next, right, the next month, and then what our middle schools are different for 80
vocabulary and literacy, the strategy that we chose to address, maybe provide resources for families to bring back home, and make that information and wrote down to undertake.
Your child is reading.
And you know what, maybe we could put our kids in balance for their information learning, and they could go around at the literacy night. That would be a good tool. I would involve that. They're getting exactly that would be. And then go with it. But being for long, these reading packages as this information package, and then have teachers have to say
Was it progress? VR, it's so hard. And we're kind of reading along.
Yes.
And like.
We have a lot of teachers that want to be.
Almost that whole campaign.
So
We are VR. That's awesome. Yes, yeah, so kind of going, I've already got the first part. Yeah, so kind of going.
our t-shirts say hashtag make a choice. Ours make a choice.
Yeah.
Do you have it already? Switch schools to present it, rotate.
Go.
5 minutes.
What, rotate?
If you haven't already.
In January, yeah, that's where we initially started, but we decided to break it into 2.
Y'all have a lot more.
Yeah,
We did open house, and then we said about the school. So we did that open house, me and me, and then in September, that's when we went to provide parents with the knowledge or whatever sessions, was by then, pretty much giving us from strategies.
And then Fun Friday, so and then we would get some math classes would be in charge of that. So we said, English, like to do that.
Yeah, and even do it at the end, so just in case you have
Those relationships and trust and
we've had.
And then to introduce them.
We can do that on the email, on the website, on
And then a Saturday.
Facebook, so kind of flooding all media, so everybody can participate. But I also would like to look into
So that we can utilize those days to meet the parents.
that our teachers utilize.
In conference.
Yeah.
That way. Yes. Every child parent, to let them know this is where your child is getting smarter. This
So,
is-
yeah,
So yesterday we did that ACT. After testing, everybody in our middle classroom,
What that dash looks like, so that they
data,
can see
explain
where
it
it's
to
going
me.
in order to be considered
What is it called?
proficient, and then teach them in that same night those strategies. And then as far as technology, we talked about video.
Oh,
Introduce those skills every time.
right now, the first meeting
Came out,
is
but
Or new reading
I'm
strategies.
digging our fifth graders are
Video
using Class
classes.
Dojo.
I love Dojo.
Already also.
I think it would be a hard
videos,
sell
resources we talked about
for
using.
some of my seniors.
Um,
But that's something we can look into, and then for semester, the tip sheet as far as
Videos
like
as a
the
teacher
words.
is,
You're the most common words,
have it, it's all through.
you can't start to and that was awesome. I love that in the Facebook Live.
Well, then it's there too, like,
Month, that's when you can do
Literacy,
Yeah.
nights and things like that.
What would be on there? I don't know.
And that's building a
You
relationship.
can also do,
Since, you know, it's
Zoom,
video.
Facebook Live.
Still need to know that first. Yeah, yeah, so take the time to.
So that,
And then print it out to
that's
kids,
another
provide them
dynamic of
teaching
conversation as opposed
strategies,
to just
so
watching
they can look back
videos.
at
Yeah,
the
exactly. You're gonna see how
it was modeled, and then anchor chart, maybe like a small picture of an anchor chart, and then use like kind of our visual learners, and then Brian, we would like to utilize that student to advertise it here on like the front porch. Yeah, like take some kiddos, cause they'll watch. Yeah. And then, tell them how easy it is for them.
It's a brand.
Absolutely.
Open the library, like.
I was running. The cheat sheet, I was like, oh, I like that.
That's not to me, that's very educated. That's just kind of where I was working.
Right.
You'll have your some people can't for those students.
That's how I realize it.
We're about to take a break.
They don't really think be like that.
But it is, thanks so much for listening. You don't have
Guys got about a minute to wrap it up.
Oh, I think I started like, just like, the kids come through my office, they want to know, I'm like, ooh,
Yes, yes. I'm just looking at that, but I'm thinking to myself, thinking, like, if we go to something like that, where they go to teachers, like,
My granddaughter's middle name, Harper.
Hold on with the pen, hold on. My girl can follow directions yesterday. Okay, guys. Let me hear you. See you. What you think? Did you get some feedback?
Yes.
Okay, good. We on the right track? I suspect we are. Let's take, what, 10-minute break? Yeah. 10, she said. It is 2 o'clock.
No, it's like an hour break.
We gonna blow through the last bit here. And we'll be done at 3. Yeah. So I can go sit at the airport for hours. All right, y'all, seriously, take a break. No, really, take a break. 2:10, guys, 2:10.
Listen to that. I thought about something
I love that.
vocabulary is all, I see fun, and that's what I use that tape, and that's something, I might just think
Everybody keeps talking about it. They kept saying you don't carry in Bahama like that anymore. I'm thinking, okay. And I won't be.
It reminds me of a great thing you guys just did, had, like, making them present it, involving us and explaining, yeah.
I was just wondering, just listen to y'all.
Super cute idea.
I thought about where, like you said, education. If the teacher said, what is annexation? The word and tag you in the string.
That's the old piece.
Mom, annexation is, and then they use orientation is. And then they come back and say tag, or your head is grade. And then probably every week they can do
Isn't that the cutest? And
they'll
they'll be so excited to do that.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
you know,
And then I think they'll push their friends to be like, oh, you done that.
yeah, it's like you in, then.
I'm not gonna lie, I told Baylor the other night, I was like, is your daddy to be in that? Look, cause I was in my bed, I was shower, my hair was wet, and I was like, you tell your daddy to be in that.
And when it makes you gotta put your face on it, you could have just sat there and had your hands right there.
Well, Baylor tried to say, well, he is to me called shower. It's like, why your face? And Stacey said her elbow was just, Baylor, how do I know that that's not her elbow? That could be your buddy's elbow.
Yeah, but did it have to be covered separate?
Yeah.
We need to hear you, we need to hear you.
Yeah, but they could do that with the computer. So I'm like, somebody will be in What'd you say? What's it? Okay, what am I supposed to say? I was like, you know when he talks. And Lloyd sounds really smart.
Yeah, look at you. Hold on. Where am I sticking
That's so typical of
To be in a video,
Lloyd was like, like, oh, like this was like, Baylor like looked at him like, but then Baylor being my little lawyer, then he just jumped right in there. I was like, see, you two needed to do this.
Wait, you don't make her fall.
But he just jumped right in there.
I like the video with the kids doing the advertisements.
I think that is a good, or let them come in front of the video. Because that's another one that and parents have to be involved. So maybe even parents have to be on, you know, like with them and say, this is what we learned, this is what we've got to know. You know, we're really excited.
Because it is family.
My stepson.
And it doesn't have to be every time, you know, but it shows up.
and I told her we got Sports Illustrated.
If we keep
Took me around, but I want our kids to keep I love our sixth graders. Not just sixth grade, but sixth grade, they can do too. They're want to do. I was just telling you, kids have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what that looks like. They need to go to middle school. They find out when they start.
That 15 or 20 that you didn't have, I can see if you're really just
Cash working out. Jim Pearson got scared me because I was only in Coke having a meeting with Mr.
You know, that's what I'm saying, doing just math and science teachers.
He said, what the what?
That takes a huge start.
Like, we have to go back out the park and go around the back there.
That's how I got yours. Makes it real. And to be real with that,
Any time, you know that.
And I think it is a lot of money to do.
You can sit there and do that watching a television show at night. Oh my God.
I think
As a teacher,
during that time.
but as a teacher, you could sit down with your lead.
That's why I was saying.
Yes.
Let them do that.
Here's someone take a different call and go, okay, find your way back. It's working, I now know how it is.
Yes, sir. Pre-approved, and that'll be it. They got
If we can do, I just put Cooper, what's the other one? I think it was and that is at Stevens. There's another
I feel guilty about
I thought it was
because there were some questions I asked about, and see, I know Spring Hill, they have one, Spring Hill has the rec center. That would be because when I was parent liaison years ago, that's where we had our parent meetings, was there. But it was parent involvement, it was not, this is totally different. Oh, we've got lots of involvement, we have lots of parents involved. You can't say that.
it's also yeah,
well, I know, but this is totally open.
I want to make sure I have my Alex sitting there.
And the only way we're
Like
gonna.
this. There you go. I ain't gonna do right. I ain't gonna do right. I'm gonna take it down. I ain't gonna do right. I'm letting you know before I leave. I ain't gonna do right, Dr. Brown. I ain't gonna do right.
It's going to take family to let us to a point where we don't have to vote each other so much.
Had to be a county school that just came back.
So I'm gonna let you know I don't do right.
This is him doing right.
I tell you, I swear. I don't do right, Dr. Brown. Just to let you know. But I am learning like this was really worthwhile.
That year was all in there was stuff going on. But just,
Started this. Lots of opinions about that. Oh, yeah.
I said, okay, we just help me think. Check that off, now I just gotta work on the rest. We're gonna do that on the 19th, so all the other teachers that are not involved in anything, we can do it. And I told them, and then on those, you got those extra days? When we come back from, we working.
But this is
So, you have your attention. On pages 12 and 13 in your participant guide, you're going to see at least one of those documents that looks really familiar. Yes? That's what we did this morning, right? On page 13, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? So we've come up with some action steps that we'd like to implement and what channels or how we're going to do that. Page 13 is a little bit deeper dive into our action steps. And you see the smaller boxes are the months that we're going to do this, right? So what we are trying to do on page 13 is take our action steps and really put that into a year-long plan. And what does that last column say?
Person responsible.
Oh my gosh.
Not me.
Woo! That is a loaded column, isn't it?
I love that column. Delegate.
Look at it there. We can't see her whole face, but we can see those smiling eyes. So, what are you going to put in that column? You're going to put the face team? If we did that, what does that do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Tells them.
It tells what team is going to do it, but it doesn't give ownership. Okay? Now, should we be putting people's names there that aren't here? No. That's not really fair. We're going to talk about your team in here in a minute. We may want to. But be specific. Okay? Take a few minutes and look at pages 18 and 19. Those are completed versions of these two forms. You may have referenced page 18 this morning when you were working on your, is it 18 the one that's the, okay. So how these two documents interact. So if on your action plan, an action step is to have a family literacy night, what are you going to use? I don't mean that to be rhetorical. What are you going to use? You're going to use page 18, right?
Yeah.
And why would we use that planning worksheet like that? What does that help with?
The details.
The process.
On the process conditions. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, keep you focused on the process conditions. What are our process conditions? Relational. Link to learning.
Asset.
Culturally.
Yep. Culturally responsive, respectful, interactive, and collaborative. Good. And what do we do first?
Relational.
Link, well, on the planning sheet, what are we linking it back to learning? Okay, yes, relational is the foundation on which we need to build all of our work. But when we're planning specific events like this, how are we linking this back to our learning? So, why don't we just take a couple minutes, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, because you have it as a resource, and just kind of look over that, If you have any questions about anything, now's the time to ask that. So just look over pages 18 and 19. I want you to see what those action steps are looking like. Remember, our whole sample is still off of that 4th grade, was it non-fictional text? Comprehension, thank you. You may need to look back at your channels, right? See what you said you wanted to do.
That just makes more sense. It's not fair. It's not. That makes me feel a little bit better about work because I'm already not getting barriers. If that makes sense.
It's kind of old school, but
I read my stuff, but it helped me. But it's something, it's just teaching them to
That has helped us so much. Baylor if you need something on your library, you let me know. Like we're trying to figure out how to give money or something.
She's got a list. Okay, she's got a list.
You have to make it all.
And that's
We just don't. We're not. We're just talking about
making us look bad. Girl, don't be asking them nothing.
He said, "Hey mom, tell me what you're doing." I mean, it's split. It is.
Okay, guys. Do you guys have any questions? Remember I said we're not going to finish this today. I want you to understand the process. Do you have any questions at all about how these last 3 or 4 steps that we've looked through, how they interact and how to use them? Do you feel like you have a pretty good understanding?
We might have questions, like we know where you are.
Yeah, and to that point, I know Maricel already said this, but I think on each of the tables, there's one of her business cards and one of my business cards. So if you want to take a picture of that, I'm sorry we don't have enough for everybody.
Mr. President,
Already emailed it.
I took pictures.
After that, it's stuck between papers.
I don't have
That's in there.
Okay. So, what makes a successful plan? How do we make sure that? How do you make sure that this just doesn't sit on a shelf somewhere? Well, you have to share it with stakeholders. And who are our stakeholders?
community, parents,
Teachers.
The rest of our team is not here.
The rest
We
of
have
our
other
team.
team members.
Yeah. So we were just talking in the back about, you know, there's, all the time we think about attendance as a campaign, right? And if vocabulary is a huge issue among everyone, why not work with each other, like doctors, dentists, faith-based community, and do a vocabulary campaign, right? And what that looks like. You guys did pictures of your bulletin boards. Some of them were blank, right? Maybe we put what the standard is around vocabulary, the expectation, and show what that work might look like. Or whether it's writing or math, right? So that when we have visitors in the building, when we have students in the building, they can see what it's supposed to look like. Not to create doubt in themselves or to destroy their confidence if they're not performing at that level, but set the bar. When we talk about setting the bar high, a couple days ago.
I don't know if they did it in every school, but the Friday that we had data day, they sent the activity teachers to a room and they had a vocabulary list and they conquered and divided those words. And like the other day, I was walking through the gym and one of the coaches said, "Now what was our word yesterday?" And the little boy said, "Opposite." They remembered those vocabulary words.
How many folks still do announcements over the loudspeaker, right?
With the word of the week.
Word, yeah. Yeah, and maybe some of our ideas are, we talked about giving positive points and stuff like that, is, you know, every time you hear a kid use that word appropriately, you
Give a shout out.
yeah, give them a little kick. Give them a shout. So not only do we want to share and let everybody know what we're doing, we want to get feedback on that. Do you remember earlier when I said you don't want to throw buckshot at this, you want to be intentional? Because if you don't, how are you going to monitor and evaluate your progress if you've got a million things going on? Everybody in your building needs to be on target, whether this is a vocabulary effort, a math effort, a school climate effort, a connection effort. Keep those strategies. There's this phrase, you don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yes.
Do I hear an amen? Amen. Right? You want to be a mile deep and an inch wide. Get that focus narrow and get after it. When you have feedback and when you monitor and evaluate, you have the capacity then to make adjustments, right? Because it's not just your perception. We're not just making assumptions. We have more information, more data. And then what do? Repeat, right? We talked about resource analysis yesterday, and how I said that's probably something that needs to be done a couple times a year, like a deep resource analysis. You have a scavenger hunt that we didn't fully get to implement, but I would wish for you, and this may not be a wish, but a directive at some point, but I would wish for you and your team to actually do that. Like, follow through. We took pictures, we did the best that we could in the time that we had to see where we were with that, but truly do that scavenger hunt, and then make a plan to improve. And use that often. When new team members come on, have them do it. Because we get so used to seeing the things over and over and over again. We didn't get a lot of time to talk about your responses to the partnership rubric. Do you remember what type of school are we? Come if you call, if we call, open door, fortress, partnership. Partnership is where we want to be. But do that often. I think Chris has got some blank copies of that if you don't have a clean copy of that. Those are easy things you can do. More in-depth things that you can do. Dr. Mapp from Harvard, that we've been doing this whole series about, I've got a link. I've added that to my to-do list, Chris, to send you a link of some pre and post family surveys that you can get to. One thing I want to say is, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions in your evaluation process, right? I mean, that's the only way we can grow. If we really, I mean, it informs us, right? We can do tertiary level things to inform, and then we can do deep dive surveys. You always want to get your family feedback, and in your participant guide on page 20 is this, right? It's a sample of a family event survey. I love these questions, right? I learned, remember I said on Monday, we used the phrase a tip, tool, or a strategy. I learned a tip, tool, or strategy for supporting my child's learning at home. An opportunity to practice. So these questions embody the spirit of all 6 of those process conditions, right? What are some other ways that you can survey your families from your events that you have? Exit tickets.
Google form.
QR codes.
Yeah, y'all did a QR code today. Have you ever thought about just putting butcher paper up on the wall, or these blank posted papers with a question and have some stickies by it? It's anonymous, nobody has to put their name. But to see a wall that's filled with butcher paper with, you put one big question up there, a couple of questions, and families can write their responses up there. That's kind of fun. Who else should we be soliciting feedback from?
Students.
Yeah, you can get ideas from your students, but from the events that we have, these events for adults, you want to know what your staff have to say about how it went, right? How does what we're doing align with our school improvement goals? This is on page 21, probably. Is that the right page? Yeah. Samples of these questions. I modeled for families a strategy to support learning at home. To do that well, we need to build their capacity to do that, right? We're not making assumptions about our families, but we're also not making assumptions about our educators, right? Because we know that this is a dual capacity approach, and that we both ends have challenges. I provided families an opportunity to practice what they need to do at home, or what we're asking them to do at home. And I invited families to share how they plan to implement, right? All right. So in planning for implementation, you may want on your notes page to write these 3 big buckets, okay? The first one is your team. Do you have the right mix of people? Do you have the right voices at the table? Does the structure of your team match the climate and culture of your school? Do we assign responsibilities based on people's strengths? Or does the strongest one get the bulk of the load, right? I know that's what happens. Oh, you're voluntold to be here. You might know that too, huh? So do you have the right mix of people? The second bucket of work you might want to put on your notes page in addition to the right face team is impact strategy.
Would you mind going back a slide for just a second?
What is the third question again?
The third question is, are the assigned roles to help maximize individual strengths and maintain team morale? That's that, not, we're doing a strength-based approach or asset-based approach with our families. Are we doing the same with our teams? So that one bucket of work to think about in terms of the rubber meeting the road is, do I have the right team? So, my face team. You ready? Second one is that impact strategy. So I've got these 3 questions. Do I need to make that print a little bit bigger? I'll make it. I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. I want you to take just a couple of minutes, and there's 3 questions here. Which new tools or approaches and strategies are you most excited about and why? All right, let's just do that one first. The second one is, what practice will have the most impact on your program this year? And then lastly, what strategy do you think is going to propel your work forward? I get one person to share on the first bullet? Which new tools, approaches, and strategies are you most excited about and why? One share, go ahead.
I'm most excited about empowering our families and including them in their child's learning. Just getting to actually include them and have them join us.
Have a partner. Thank you. Who would like to share the second one? What practice will have the most impact on your program the rest of this year? Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a practice, it's just the education of learning that the piece that directly correlates to student learning, teacher success, and parent engagement. So just seeing how all this ties together.
All pieces. Thank you. And did you find any specific strategy that is going to be something that propels your work forward? That you said the APTC? Boy, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Just that I mean, it's like music when you watch that. Good. Okay, thank you. The third bucket of work that I'd like you to put on your notes is do like this: ask, /support. Ask meaning attitude, skills, and knowledge. What will it take for your team to continue to successfully implement these ideas and initiatives? You may have already on the QR code survey put some things down. There you see what we mean by attitude, skills, and knowledge. Where do you need to focus your efforts? And from whom do you need support? Anyone want to share what it's going to take for your team to continue to successfully implement these ideas? One share?
I think time, like planning time.
Collaboration time, planning time.
Dedicated.
Okay. Where do you need to focus your efforts?
To start with, wherever we're gonna get the biggest bang for our buck.
I would encourage you to think about mindset, right? That has to do with ask. We did that 4 corners and you could see the variety of where we were all over the board with that. And from whom do you need support?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Families, teachers, Scholastic.
They want more from Scholastic, by the way, I'm just saying.
We'll work on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody needs capacity building to be able to support this work. These are just some questions to consider. You know, it's a lot to unpack. I know. So, thinking about the ask, right? Or the attitude, skills, and knowledge. What work do you need to do with your staff? What kind of ownership or buy-in or accountability do you need to build, and with whom? Do you have existing partnerships already in place that you can leverage, right, to maximize what's happening? You may have already answered this question and what additional support you need, what additional training you might need. What relationships? Remember we talked about trust and relationships right off the bat. What relationships do we need to focus on to build, to deepen the rest of this year? Keep that in the forefront of your mind as you're thinking about what this is going to look like and how all this is going to hit the ground. But just some things to kind of prick your ideas. Do you think you're going to have resistance? Yes. Of course. Let me make this bigger. We need this to be bigger. Of course. Sorry about that. How are we going to handle that? Here are three things, right? Those bullets represent some things that you might hear as you begin talking about this, right? Read the first one for me. Wait. Do it in the attitude that you think that goes with that. Could you just do that? Come on.
This sounds good, but I'm swamped and I don't have time to take on one more thing.
Somebody give me a rebuttal to that.
Doing this, you won't have all those other things to do. This is gonna cut back on some of your other things.
Tail
extra things that
chasing.
you're doing, yeah. Chasing a rabbit down the rabbit hole.
Good. Ms. Cassandra, read that second one for me.
Ooh, I would if I could see it.
Okay.
I got it. It says, I'm already engaged in my family, so I think I will just stick to what has worked for me in the past.
Yep.
Look at the data, it hasn't really worked in the
Dr. Ruffin, you want to read that third one for me? With attitude, could you please?
Seriously, I've tried everything, and my families are just not interested in getting involved. I'll pass.
I would say the devil is a lie. No, he ain't passing on nothing. You tried everything, try something new.
Yes.
That's what I would say. Well, let's try something new.
Yeah.
You've tried everything you know.
Try something new.
Try our approach.
Good. So we have to be prepared, right? And we had a little fun with this, but seriously, there are going to be some people like, I'm good. And we have to be prepared of how we're going to strengthen the internal motivation of our staff and families to do something different. Notice I said staff and families, right? Because we both need capacity building. Yes. And you might even could do this as an activity with your family engagement team, right? You could role play, see what you can come up with. Like a fight? Scrapping? On the third floor of high school, so everybody has to run up 3 flights of stairs to help. Okay. You have a planning sheet. A couple of planning sheets. You've got some ideas. You have some resources and some tools to think about how logically and sequentially we can move our school improvement outcomes. When we move our school improvement outcomes, we move our children. We move that needle. We move the capacity of our staff and educators. And I meant to say this earlier. You said something yesterday, Mr. Brooks, about, or maybe this morning, about the custodian too, right? Our support staff cannot be left out. Our cafeteria work. Who are these children encountering first?
Bus drivers.
Bus drivers, right? That is one of the biggest wealth of information that you can gather is from those school bus drivers. So when you're thinking about surveying staff, survey your bus drivers, survey your cafeteria staff. Substitutes, right? There's a whole group of folks behind the classroom supporting. So thank you for mentioning that, because I always mean to mention that. So moving forward, you've already answered, Chris had a question, what additional support do you need? So hopefully we have tapped that. And I'd like to spend a few minutes here with this, and I want these back, please. This is what we call I used to think, now I think. And your blatant honesty is appreciated. I expect nothing less. Okay?
Thank you.
Volunteers in public schools, VIPs.
You know the butcher paper around your church, that's what my reminder is. Giant sheet of butcher paper.
Is that your binder on the other side? Do you want these?
You just think.
I used to think, now I think. When you're finished, you can just pile those up on one corner of the table for me. Great.
That's hers.
That's all I had to go.
No,
Okay.
because yours is short.
All right, before y'all get too busy packing up, I want to show you this. We opened with Dr. Mapp, and I'd like to close with a short video. It's only about 3 minutes long.
Thank you for participating in and completing this workshop series.
We're constantly sharing and utilizing the resources of each other to grow in the work and ultimately benefit the students.
I think when families walk in the door, we always have that invisible boundary. As soon as you walk in, I'm a parent, I'm a teacher, we have different roles. But when we talk to each other for what's best for the student and the best outcomes, that would be a huge, huge accomplishment.
It's very important for us to share with our teachers the importance of a good old-fashioned meeting, a face-to-face meeting, and how that can make a difference in how our parents perceive our actions and our intent.
One of the main focuses of my job is to really try to find ways to integrate our families into feeling that they are welcome. And that was actually something that I really thought about a lot after I went to a professional development, making sure that when they come in, regardless of the language barrier, they feel like they are going to be served and that they feel like they can have ownership of their school and that there's always going to be a friendly face.
However the parent is comfortable communicating, that is how we communicate, and as frequent as possible.
If we all take the time to kind of know each other and most importantly know the students that we're all caring for, it tends to be a good way to dive into the rest of the work because we've already found our common ground.
You are family engagement ambassadors and will be the guiding force to carry this work forward. And we look forward to celebrating your student and family success.
There's been a lot happen in 3 days. There are big question marks and little question marks and a lot of question marks. And that's part of growth, right? And not being afraid. We put that, you guys added that, being open and not afraid to say or not afraid of change. This is a huge change in the way that we do business. And I said it before and I'll say it again, you guys have been amazing. And I don't say this to every group because not every group is this amazing, but this has been one of the most enjoyable series that I have been a part of, and that is a testament to you all. So thank you very much, and thank you for the work that you do. I am humbled to be a part of the work, and you guys matter so much. So thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
District? Roll. Go Tigers.
What?
Go Tigers.
No, I'm Alabama.
First of all, I want to tell you all thank you because you've given up a lot of time and I appreciate it. And I want to thank you first and foremost for your openness, your vulnerability, and because you opened yourself up, not because you had to, but because you want to see our district move forward and you want to see our students move forward. And so I thank you for that. I think I said it on Monday that this is a great training. Like I said, I did it about 7 years ago, but like I told Tavia and Chris and Maricel before she left, that the last time I went through it, the conversation wasn't as open, it was more guarded, it wasn't as rich. The plans that came through the activities were not as intentional as it seems like you all have been. So I think that you have the sense of urgency that we need in this district. The work is not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. We already saw the 3 comments that you probably are going to get that and a lot more, with a lot more attitude, as we try to get people to buy in and to get on this train as we go forward. But I hope that you in this room, and I believe that you are, you know, that you have bought in, you're all in, and that we can move forward. From the district level, we are here to support you. We're here to support you when people don't want to do what you ask them to do. We're here to support you in that way. We're here to support you with finances and resources, and in any way that we can, we're here to support you. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Don't hesitate to, you know, to give us feedback. If we're not doing what we need to do, don't hesitate to give us that feedback. To the parents, I thank you all so much for your input. It has been greatly appreciated, and we've taken it into place. And on January 12th, Chris is going to have a meeting with the liaisons, and that meeting started out, I think we said it was going to be maybe about an hour or 2, but every time they said something, I turned around and said, you need to take that on the 12th. So that meeting is probably going to be a day. But, because there's just a lot of good stuff that has come out of this. If we implement this, we implement it to fidelity, which is going to be the expectation, then I can see us having great things. Are we gonna see it next year? Probably not. It's just like Ms. Tuttle said, you know, we're gonna plant a tree that we may not be able to enjoy the shade, but we're gonna plant the tree. And we're going to water it, and we're gonna do whatever it needs to do to grow it. Thank you, Peggy. You and Maricel were wonderful. You were great facilitators. I want to thank Chris, because when he came on board, I think the first thing that I told him to do was I wanted him to set up this training, to facilitate it, and that was all I had to say. You know, I gave him, Armando Gonzalez, I think that's his name. I gave him the number, Armando's number, and from that, he would just come tell me, this is what we need, this is what we need. And so he got everything set up great. He corresponded with, the facilitators, and so I thank you, Chris. You've done a wonderful job. Everything was, I guess everybody was comfortable except me, I'm freezing. But he's done, so he's done a wonderful job, so I thank you, Chris, for that. And again, I thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules, being out of your classroom, out of your building. I know it's not hard. When you go back, you don't know what's waiting, but I thank you for taking that time out to come. So now I'm gonna let Chris have the last words, and again, we're here to support you.
Thank you guys for coming. Y'all have been wonderful, and we do greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Tavia. I greatly appreciate it. Appreciate you leaving your wallet.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Made a few extra charges there. I'm gonna say, just remind you again, please put your names on these. I mean, if you don't want them, so be it, but I would assume that you might, just at least to show. But put your school names on them somewhere so that I can bring them to you. But I do want you to leave them, and I will either get them to you on Friday or on Monday. That would be one. If you haven't done the survey, please make sure that you do it. It's two. She stole my thunder, Dr. Price did, about my meeting in January, but we'll be giving you some information about that very, very soon, as, yes, she's very truthful. It went from here to here to here to here. I think I have about 20 of these little sticky notes where she would say, hey, y'all talk about that. So we'll get your agenda worked on and ready. Last thing I just wanted to say is, well, the two last things is I do want to ask the FACE liaisons to stick around for just a few extra minutes. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I want to talk to y'all for just a minute. And to remember one thing that we said the other day, rabbits, not elephants. I'm going to go back to your school expecting to have this big, massive program from day one, rabbits. Find one more rabbit, work on another rabbit, then we'll get more rabbits, and all of a sudden we'll have what we're looking for. Just think small, work small, and we'll get where we need to go. So, nobody has anything else?
Do you think that, y'all from the higher up can send an email to the rabbits and kind of just let them know? You know, just tell them what we did, the importance of it, and that way they'll know why we're coming to them with so many ideas.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's part of what we're going to talk about in our liaison meeting for just a second. What I need to do to help you out and get this thing moving.
And we have a instructional leaders meeting on Monday that I'll go do a little recap of this with the principals and make sure that they understand the expectations as well.
Have a great holiday.
Didn't do the survey for Chris. There it is. The QR code's up on the screen.
And how I feel about my surveys.
Yeah,
I will be calling about helping in that room situation and comfortable or whatever. And I will be
You know what's funny? But I'll be like, okay. You know, I think it's fun. Sure.
So it's kind of like calling them off, is they always say you're in trouble with that. I'm going, no, when you come see me, you can never get in trouble.
And then sometimes you just be there waiting when you're at party. Your mom is going to give you pregnant. And then you get to bring it back full tomorrow.
I'll be right back.
Just really good.
Same here, so we use
And that's maybe everything.
Yeah, I've been to many a workshop, y'all were, yeah.
Nice to meet you.